I'm Tanya Khanna. I'm the program director for master's program in EE, electrical engineering, within the electrical and systems engineering department. So this is a confusing thing that students get confused with often, is that there's many different master's programs and they're housed by different departments. So for example, our department, electrical and systems engineering, hosts two master's programs, electrical engineering and systems engineering, as well as co-hosting many other programs like the robotics program, data science, and more in the foreseeable future, I'm sure. So just to get it a little organized, it can get confusing at times. So anyway, the electrical engineering program, the program description, it gives students the theoretical foundation and the skills needed to deal with new ideas and new applications that are the hallmarks of modern electroscience. The major advantage of our program is that it allows you to tailor your education to your own interests and goals, from electromagnetics and photonics, sensors, MEMS, to VLSI and nanotechnology, right? My background is in VLSI and circuit design, so that's what I know most, and that's where most of the students, where they end up, I usually know where they end up. The total student population is approximately 180 students. And so, this is a little blurb about our program, but if I can do this suavely, I'm going to switch the screen sharing to our webpage, which, then you can find all the information nice and organized. So let's see if I can change the screen share to show you exactly our course webpage. Oh. I don't think it lets me share a browser. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's our landing page for our course webpage. You can see Masters of Science in Electrical Engineering and Electrical Engineering. And you can see here's the the blurb that I just read to you, as well as many links. And it shows here some of the options you've heard from the other program directors. The program duration, generally it's a 2-year program. Some students can graduate in 1.5. Sometimes students will do double majors, sorry, not double majors, dual degrees, and maybe do it in 2.5 years. There's also the academic field study that Swab mentioned, which I think is being taken more advantage of in EE, which is great. One of my current TAs actually is just finishing an academic field study at Amazon. And then here you can see the master's thesis option details, but this is the most important link up here, this MSc in Electrical Engineering program requirements. And this is going to be the link where you're going to find all the information about the degree. So you can see, similar to the other programs, we have this idea of a set of core curricular classes and elective courses. And so you can see it's categorized into these A, B, C, D categories. And you can see category A, which is our EE core, means you have to take 5 course units or 5 classes within this EE core. And you can see that we've kind of divided them out into these different categories: physical devices and nanosystems, circuits and computer engineering, and information and design systems. And if you open these drop-down menus, you can see the courses that you're able to take in those. And as you go to any program, ours here at Penn or any university or any other program, you want to try to develop your curriculum such that you are able to market yourself for whatever you want to do next. So for example, if you want to go to industry, if you have specific industry that you want to go into, you want to make sure that the classes you choose in your master's program show those industry folks that you have knowledge in the field that's applicable to that industry. So for example, if you want to go work at Intel, you're going to take a lot of digital circuit classes, maybe some computer architecture. And so you're going to choose a lot of these circuits and computer engineering classes as your core classes. And so there's 5 core required classes, and you don't have to take them all in one of these areas. You could take any 5, but like I said, if you're trying to go down some path, then this helps guide you on what courses you should choose to help market yourself towards that final goal or final industry position you want. And then so after the category A, the 5 EE core classes, there's 2 ESE electives, so 2 electives within the electrical and systems engineering department. And so those could be anything, any master's level, graduate level course in the ESE department. And a few click on this link here, it'll take you to the entire ESE course catalog, which I also recommend is a good source of information for you if you're interested in our program. And then finally, we have category C, which is a C's elective. So basically any engineering, master's level or graduate level engineering course, it's limited to these departments, but it's very flexible in terms of what we will accept. And then category D, 2 course units of open electives. So these are approved electives from graduate courses. They do still have to be graduate courses at Penn, but they can be within anywhere in Penn, in the engineering school C's, in the art school SAS, medicine, law, Wharton, social policy, education. And the other thing I want to direct you to is the idea of this program being flexible. So these are our guidelines, and they're really meant to help guide you on what courses you should take, what courses would be applicable to you. But there's also this precedent list here, which you can see shows you courses that weren't listed or weren't necessarily in those category A, B, C, but would also be counted. And this is basically historical precedent for students who said, well, I'm interested in this other course and I think it's more applicable and more useful for me. Then you can petition to have it counted. And so you can see category B, which was meant to be ESE electives, you can see plenty of CIS courses approved for there. And that's basically historically happened because students who might be interested more in computer engineering, there's a lot of overlap with computer information science. And so they take some courses there, which are necessary to go down that computer engineering path. So, even though we've got this curriculum planned out with category A, B, C, D, like the other 2 program directors told you, it's really about the student as a whole and an individual and what's good for that student and what's applicable for that student. So I know, I've approved many classes in mechanical engineering, material science. We want to make sure that we're, that we're looking at you as a whole student and not just checking boxes. So that's the overview of the program, and those links I have on the last slide of this presentation if you want to peruse them yourself. But I think that's where you'll really get most of the information in terms of the curriculum of the program, what options are available to you, and what would help guide you to see what you actually want. And then in addition to all that coursework, one of the big benefits of being here at UPenn ESE is the access to the research facilities, the faculty, doing independent study with them, doing a master's thesis with them in all the areas of research going on, right? So we have SMORM and nanotechnologies, cyber physical systems integration, meta nanocircuits, robotics, urban transit, mobile solar power, prosthetic device enhancements, and more. We've recently got new faculty in computer engineering, Professor Jing Li and Ben Li. They're developing new courses. There's a hardware software co-design for machine learning course that's very popular right now. We've also got new faculty in quantum computing. We have a new intro to quantum circuits course, which is very exciting. So there's definitely a lot happening on the research side, and faculty are very amenable to having master's students do research with them. So, developing those relationships within the community of students and faculty, that gives our students an edge on their future paths. And, here you can see a couple pictures I pulled. So on the top, you can see field work from the GRASP lab with an R-Hex robot. And this robot was actually featured in a recent indie Hollywood movie. So that's very exciting. And then below you see one of the lab spaces with the students working there in the lab. This is the M Lab as part of the Precise Center, the Penn Research in Embedded Computing and Integrated Systems. And then, of course, the famous GRASP Lab, General Robotics, Automation, Sensing, and Perception. That's that R-Hex robot up there. But we also have the Sing Center for Nanotechnology. A lot of a lot of the nano classes are held in there. We have the Warren Center for Network and Data Sciences, the Multimedia and Networking Lab. And, many students take advantage of these research opportunities. Like Swap mentioned, there's that option of the master's thesis. And so, generally students do 2 semesters of a master's thesis to really get the most out of it. But you can do only 1 semester. And then there's also the independent study option. There's more details on those web pages that I showed you earlier about those options. But it's really useful. It really helps you develop relationships and get more in-depth knowledge on these topics you might want more knowledge in. And if you are planning to potentially pursue a PhD program, those are helpful because not only does that give you insight into whether or not you like research and want to pursue the PhD program, but it also helps develop a relationship for, getting the application in. In addition to, what you would do here at Penn, the opportunities to work with world-class faculty and the TAs, research, independent study, right? This also helps you prepare you for your future paths. So for more detail on the kinds of opportunities, you can see this ESE jobs board here, which lists, opportunities within Penn and outside of Penn. But here's just a list of some of the companies that hire students: Facebook, Oracle, Microsoft, Huawei, Qualcomm, Google, Apple, Amazon, TSMC, Intel, MathWorks, Micron, Samsung, Infor, NVIDIA. The list goes on, and I think Swap had a link to that opportunities outcomes from the Career Services Office. There you can see a full comprehensive list of not just our program, but all the other programs. And university PhD program students have joined, Cornell, University of Pennsylvania, CU Boulder, UT Dallas, Northwestern. Students apply everywhere and go everywhere. And I know personally a few students who, I helped write recommendations for their applications. They definitely got into many, many schools, but a lot of them decided to stay at Penn just because they developed that nice relationship with their faculty member, and they just really like the environment here. And so even though they may have had quote unquote better opportunities, they decided to stay here at Penn because they thought that was better for them. So that's just a kind of general idea of our program. Here's that more program information, the links for those web pages I showed you, the Masters in EE information. And, if you just Google MSE EEU Penn, you'll land on this page. But that course planning guide, the CPG, that's going to give you most of the information on the program and to really understand what the program is like. And then, of course, the ESE course catalog, which shows you all of the courses available to you. So that's all I have right now, but let me see if there are any questions. Could you explain, are these for EE or are they something? I think they're done, yeah.
I think they're kind of general. We've got through most of the questions, thankfully, but there are 2 really good questions that I think could be responded to from the perspective of any
sure
engineering field. So the first one is, could you explain more about how different background students work and collaborate together in study? And what if they're not interested in a different field? So maybe if you can talk about the interdisciplinary nature of some of the courses and research that's happening at Penn Engineering.
Yeah, and it's pretty useful that Swap is here because EE and CIS, they have such a big collaborative effort. Actually, my office is right next to Swap, and on the other side is the MCIT program director, all 3 program directors, where our offices are right next to each other. So there's definitely a lot of collaboration amongst us and amongst our students. Our students definitely take classes in all the departments. And, like I mentioned, there's a lot of overlap, especially students who are very interested in computer engineering. There's a lot of overlap. In robotics, there's overlap between EE and mechanical engineering. So there's definitely a lot of collaboration and learning from other departments. And we also mentioned that idea of the dual degree option. Many students come here and they say, oh, I'm actually interested in this other major. Maybe I want to explore more in that. And I think less often people transfer, and I think more often people do dual degrees, which is definitely more work, but it shows the level of interest that they have in both departments. Swap, I don't know if you had anything to add on that.
No, I didn't have anything to add, but let me show people just one quick thing right now. So I just pulled up the list of approved non-CS electives for CIS and MCIT. And the point is not to show you the whole list, but to just show you how many things there are from different departments. So if you look at this, we have courses in BE, for example. Over here, we have a whole bunch of what we call EAS courses. So these are engineering courses on entrepreneurship and things like that. We have economics courses. We have like a whole bunch of ESC courses over here. We have like math courses, we have like finance courses, and so on. So this is sort of what our programs allow you to do if you're interested, is you can sort of explore something beyond your primary thing and take some interesting courses in some other department.
Yeah, and to answer this question about, I think Swap, did you already answer this? Well, I'll give my answer, that you could give yours. Do master's students have an equal chance of being awarded with RA, TA positions as PhD? Yes, absolutely. Yes. I think in any given semester, I have more master's students as TAs than PhD students. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for being a TA. I think oftentimes faculty prefer a TA from a student who's taken their class, and most of my students are master's students. So, I would say that's just as likely. Swap, what's your answer?
So I agree with that, with a slight disagreement. So I think it's in my mind, it's two different things for TA versus RA. So for TA, our PhD students are required to TA, but they don't TA beyond what they're required to TA. So we get a lot of masters and undergrad students who want to TA multiple semesters, multiple courses. So I would say as a master's student, you have a much better chance of becoming a TA than a PhD student does. On the other hand, with RA, all the PhD students in CS, for example, get funded, like they're guaranteed funding, otherwise they wouldn't be admitted to the PhD program. So getting an RA funding as a master's student is a little bit harder. So I think it depends on whether you're interested more in research or more in teaching.
Yeah, sorry, I must have misread the question. I thought it was only TA. Yeah, RA, you're not likely to get one as a master's student, not as likely as a PhD student. Sorry, my apologies. Thanks for correcting me.
Great. I mean, I invited people to use the chat, or in the chat, I invited people to add any more questions that they have. Otherwise, we can conclude. I think you guys have been a great audience. It looks like one more question was added. Let's see. Generally, when are TA and RA open for graduates? Is it after being offered admissions? So
Yeah.
I would say yes. I would say yes, definitely. And correct me if I'm wrong, faculty, but you have to typically wait until after your first semester, take some classes so that you can be considered for these opportunities. Is that right?
Generally, yes. Yeah.
Generally, yes, but not so much for us. Let me maybe share my screen again for a second. So this is the TA information page for CIS. So we have a common TA application. So for example, the application deadline for spring 23 was November 30th, and we have like links to apply and so on. So there'll be a similar link, for example, for fall. But the thing is, the deadline will almost certainly be before you have been admitted, or potentially before you decide you'll come to Penn. So you may miss the deadline like for that reason. I think RA, I definitely agree with like Tanya and Christina. I think that's typically easier after you've been here, you've done some research, and that's when you can talk to people about potentially getting funded.
Yeah. And TA positions, I guess potentially you could TA in your first semester of your master's program, but generally faculty have kind of decided who we like to get ahead of the game because we need to find our TAs before it's too late. So we like to get ahead of the game. So it really just depends on what the needs are of that particular semester. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, if there are not any other questions, if you guys have final thoughts, you can share them. Otherwise, we can conclude.
I just wanted to add the idea that Swap was talking about. We look at students as a whole and as a holistic view, and this idea of the GRE. I think, like Swap said, it's just an additional piece of information. I don't think including the GRE could ever hurt you, but it could help you. For instance, it just gives us more information about who you are. And, one of the things that you want to come across on your application that students don't often think about is, showing your interest in the program, but also showing that you can succeed in the program, right? We want students that will be happy here. And those two things kind of contribute a lot to that. So try to convey those two things in your application.
That's awesome. Well, thank you both for being here. I know Sarah had to leave early, but I'm grateful that you made time for this opportunity for students to ask you questions. We hope that you get your applications in. If you are teetering, if you're still working on your application, please reach out to an admissions specialist who can assist you with any issues with uploading documents or any other errors that you're seeing when you're trying to submit your application. I'm Christina. It was great to be with you all. I will be uploading this recording to our YouTube channel shortly, but otherwise, thank you for your time and good luck.